The fifth module in the Big 5 series is an overview of comprehension, the most essential of the reading components identified by the National Reading Panel. As you recall from the National Reading Panel, comprehension is a complex cognitive interaction between a reader and his or her text. This reader brings cognition, background knowledge, engagement, and motivation, as well as different types of vocabulary understandings to the task of reading. However, the text brings its own restrictions to the task and requires the reader to interact differently based upon its genre, its structure, and its features. That is why the task or the situation of reading is a key aspect of this reader-text interaction. Readers might be searching for facts or looking for entertainment or simply scanning quickly for details. So understanding the genre or structure of a text is something that readers must develop in order to aid their comprehension. Now, the Kansas ELA Standards identify the importance of text structure as outcomes by establishing reading literature and reading informational text as what a reader must do and show at each grade level. As you will see in this module, each set of outcomes vary in terms of reader expectation. The how teachers teach comprehension strategies begins with organizing reading instruction, which just means that teachers think about how they deliver instruction before reading, during reading, and after reading. This graphic shows some of the strategies or purposeful plans the National Reading Panel identified as being what a teacher must instruct readers on in order to help them with their interaction with the text or their making of meaning. So let's begin with the before reading instruction. Teachers facilitate their readers' interaction with the text before they actually begin the task of reading by activating their background knowledge, helping them make connections from what they already know to a potentially unknown topic, and by teaching them the structures of both literature and nonfiction texts. According to the National Reading Panel, an effective technique for helping students visualize a text structure involves the use of graphic organizers, like a concept map or a KWL chart. Teachers often use the before reading instruction time to pre-teach vocabulary. Now, that vocabulary learning, you remember, consists of learning Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 words. Teachers will want to focus on Tier 2 and Tier 3 words. Do you recall what I mean? If not, look back at the handout in Module 4. Now, teachers will want to preview the text and focus on teaching Tier 2 words, or words that have wide application in academic settings. Those selected words should probably have high utility and be used often. Important words to teach might also be familiar words found in one context, but having new meaning in this new task or new context. Teaching multiple meaning words will be important learning for your readers. Teachers will also have to determine Tier 3 words. Now, Tier 3 words are unique or unusual to the topic, and they may be difficult to pronounce. Tier 3 words will be specific to the understanding of a certain topic. As we talked about before, vocabulary instruction is critical to boosting comprehension. Now, in addition to teaching vocabulary, teachers will need to instruct their readers on how the text is crafted or structured. Narrative or story structures differ from informational or expository writing structures. In a story, the reader looks for elements of characters or a setting, a problem, the point of view of a character or characters, and the series of events that comprise the plot and its resolution. A theme is another structure of a story to teach. Helping readers search for these elements and connecting them together will facilitate their understanding of a story. Now, specific to a story structure are the author's use of devices that help the reader gain a deeper understanding of the story. So teachers will have to foster their students' knowledge of such devices as imagery or foreshadowing or symbolism. Helping your readers delve deeper into a text is important for their critical thinking development. Look closely at what these devices mean in the chart displayed. Now, oftentimes, readers feel comfortable or more familiar with the structures of a story, but they do not feel as familiar with informational or expository text. Authors of informational texts might organize their texts according to description or sequence, comparison or contrast, and even problem and solution. These types of structures can be challenging and very unfamiliar for students to see in a text and thus connect. So using the text features of a text is key to helping the reader find the text structure and then using it as a clue to making meaning. So, let me explain. A text feature is a visual information, a piece of information that adds meaning or clarification to the words. They are like red lights that say, "Look at me, I'm an important clue to the making of meaning." Text features include such visual images as bold-faced type, or photographs, glossaries, and most importantly, the title. Even though this was a brief introduction to the before reading strategies, you can see how teachers help the reader interact significantly more effectively with the text by teaching before reading strategies. But that teaching does not stop during the reading of a text. So what is it that good readers do during reading? How does the teacher boost reading comprehension during reading? Well, first of all, good readers infer. They make connections between the evidence of the text and their background knowledge and experiences. For example, when the reader views the evidence in this image of the blueness of the sky and the wispy white clouds, the reader infers the day will be pleasant or nice, right? Well, that information is not right there. The reader inferred it. The same process occurs in a text. So teaching readers how to infer is something the National Reading Panel identified as important. Readers search for clues in the text and then connect those pieces of evidence to their own thinking or background knowledge to make an inference. The academic vocabulary of evidence, clues, and inferences are important to teach when helping students infer during reading. Now, as good readers infer, they begin to ask questions. Asking questions keeps them engaged as they search for pieces of evidence. What questions do you have when you view these images? How will you facilitate your students' generating of questions during reading, as suggested by the National Reading Panel? Now, good readers must then search for answers and check their thinking to always keep their focus on the meaning. That self-checking is referred to as self-monitoring, and it's one of the key strategies the National Reading Panel identified for teachers to instruct their students on the how to do. The National Reading Panel also knew that readers should frequently summarize their thoughts or ideas as they read. In the following video, you will see other reading comprehension strategies that you might find helpful as you teach readers how to comprehend during the act of reading.
While research suggests that implementing any reading strategy will result in comprehension improvement, techniques that appear to be particularly effective in bringing students into stronger and more direct engagement with difficult texts include summarizing, asking and answering questions, and graphic organizers. Teachers who utilize more than one strategy in their instruction tend to see the greatest gains. After all, no one approach works for every text, and students' understanding will grow more sophisticated as they see how each new strategy complements their reading. Regardless of which strategy is taught, it's important that teachers make it clear from the beginning what the strategy is, what it is used for, and how it will improve reading comprehension. When students understand why the strategy is being taught, they are more likely to use it when they are reading on their own. Indeed, comprehension strategies are only truly useful to students when they go from being a classroom exercise to being part of their regular reading experience. Teachers should model the strategy, walking through each step, and thinking aloud so that students can see how the strategy impacts how they think about what they are reading. As students begin to use the strategy themselves, it's important to guide their practice and give feedback, either one-on-one, in small groups, or with student pairs. This transition from at-home to in-class reading assignments may require a shift in thinking for some teachers who may need encouragement that the change will result in greater learning.
Now, the teacher must remember that after reading instruction is just as important as the before and during reading instruction. Helping readers evaluate their reading and think about what they have read by writing or talking to another helps the reader to deepen his or her understanding of a text. One technique that is especially useful for literature reading is the use of an open mind technique. This is just a means of how the reader can visualize the character's thoughts and feelings during events in the story. In essence, the reader opens the character up and visually shows what is happening in the character's mind. Readers of narrative text might also think about the story by retelling it through a graphic organizer like a B-N-E, or beginning, middle, ending flow chart. Or they might summarize the story by identifying the somebody who wanted something but needed to do something, so the character worked to solve the problem and then end the story. Have you seen teachers use this type of graphic organizer called a somebody wanted but so then? Please recall the National Reading Panel identified graphic organizers as effective techniques for boosting students' reading comprehension. Now, helping our readers deepen their understanding of informational text might also include graphic organizers as teaching strategies, like through the use of a semantic feature analysis chart or a cubing activity. Notice the links for these types of activities if you want to use them. As a teacher, you might want to ask your students to write an opinion paper, citing evidence from the text. You might also teach the students the 5 W's and focus on who, what, where, when, and why of a text. Because teaching comprehension is so important, you will want to read more about how to help your students' close reading skills develop by looking at handout number 11 and viewing the link that's enclosed in that handout. Now, as we briefly viewed these modules, you probably noticed that all the essential components are linked to one another. Teaching all the Big 5 is thus essential to your students' development as readers and their ultimate reading achievement. Remember, because this overview is brief, be sure to examine the references included in handout number 12 for further study. But please, have fun teaching reading. Thanks.